if you start asking yourself how to actually maintain passion in a long-term relationship, it's probably because you already lost some of it. Because otherwise you probably wouldn't ask. So if your passion in sex life and intimacy life feels very exciting and very wonderful, you probably won't ask yourself this question. So the question is, how do we reignite the passion? It's probably not to maintain, it's how to reignite it or even enhance it. And mostly in long-term relationships, we lose the spark, not only to the taking something for granted, mostly because life is happening and you get some challenges. Maybe you are in family, business can be, or work can be very stressful. So maybe some health-wise, the sleep issues, the kids, like there are tons of reasons why we would make intimacy no longer a priority, or even because we are so much in this day-to-day, we are a good team, we need to function in getting the things done, that it doesn't flow naturally to us again, what was not the case in the beginning. So how to reignite it is first and foremost sit down and see if you both want it. Because mostly it's one person who is missing it and the other person is so much maybe into other focuses, not consciously not wanting it, yet not being aware or conscious enough about it. So the first thing would be sit down and ask yourself, each other, do we actually both want it equally the same? Like, is it equally important for us to reignite our passion, reignite the spark so that our intimacy life feels way better again, way more nourishing, way more exciting, so that actually the lust can come back, right? And if you sit down, and mostly in long-term relationships, we carry some resentments, or maybe there are things we haven't spoken about. So how to have different kind of conversations is the first thing we need to then, and it sounds like not logical. Why should I talk when I want to have intimacy? Yet it is the first step to then reignite polarity and attraction, and then having interest in being intimate again. So what we recommend is sitting down and talking about it. Is it your priority? What is in the way, actually? What kind of resentments or even secrets or unspoken things are in the way? Because intimacy, we want to be as connected as possible to experience a nourishing intimacy. You don't want to go back to default. And yes, you probably won't experience this natural, let's say, pull easefulness from the beginning because there was everything new. Now you know your partner for a while and you have a baggage what you want to clean and clear. Yet when you then go back to everything is cleared, and especially the energy of playfulness, curiosity, beginner's mindset is super important. Like, be playful again, be like a kid, be curious. And also when it comes to conversations, we want to work around the topic of ego, trigger, being way more compassionate and observative in conversations rather than judging, projecting, assuming, and going against the other person, right? This won't create connection. We want to create connection through conversation. Also talking about desires we have, talking about maybe fantasies you never lived. So it's as if, obviously, we won't meet as we never met before. But it's a bit the idea of coming together again with a fresh mind, with a beginner's mind, with maybe something we haven't said or in a way we haven't said it. Because obviously also as a person or as humans, we evolve and change. So you both are no longer the same as when you met. And then when we have created more connection through conversation, what is, as you always say, the most challenging or most difficult part? Then what's mostly missing in relationships then is the polarity. We end up a bit like a friendship team, and this is amazing. We love the partner deeply. What is missing is the attraction. So the polarity, the masculine, the feminine. Who of you is actually more in the masculine, more in the feminine? Who of you wants to lead? Who of you wants to be led? Are you in your roles of that the attraction actually can happen? So there are tons of versions how you can reignite this polarity, that you both are like a magnet, then there is attraction again, to then being able to be intimate again. But before we come to intimacy, we definitely need to sit down and communicate, and then to recreate attraction, what comes through polarity.
Yeah, and conversations lead to connection. So the way to connect is to communicate. And first of all, if we want to have a passion in our relationship, we first have to have connection. So the problem is not in the passion, it's on the connection. And the connection is lost whenever we hold something back from our partner, right? And in a long-term relationship, as Tina was saying, there's things that we haven't said, okay, because we want to keep the harmony, and that's understandable. We want to, live in a comfortable place. We don't want to have these fights, arguments. We want to live in harmony. That's what we're looking for as human beings, living in harmony and in peace of mind, of heart, right? But there's a difference between harmony and false or fake or forced harmony. Not saying the things that we want to say is not harmony. That is actually, I don't know how to call it, but it's not harmony. It's actually keeping things from my partner. It's actually being dishonest. And if you're here in Brad and Lola and you see more videos of us, dishonesty is the antagonist of intimacy. So if you're wanting to be intimate, you cannot be dishonest. And what is honesty, right? Honesty is to be, clear the space. If I'm thinking about something but I'm not sharing with my partner, that's already dishonesty. So whenever I don't say something that I'm thinking about that is important, that is already dishonesty. I'm not being honest with my partner. And what this does is disconnect. Because why? Connection, where does connection happen? Connection happens on this part of the body, on the heart, on the chest, on the feeling, right? The feeling is not on the mind, is on the body. So whenever we are in our heads thinking about things that we haven't said, it's very difficult to come down here to connect. So the first thing that we have to do is clear the mind, clear all the things that we're holding back, and especially, as Tina was saying, our resentments, things I don't like, things you have done to me, or things I have seen you doing that have crossed my boundaries, or things, I don't know, your case. Of course, you can work with us and we can see it more clearly. But that's the first step. And you will see, even though it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, as Tina was saying, it's actually the first step. And you will see, like, when you have that conversation and you talk about honestly about passion and what's passion in our relationship, or how can we work around this? Are we on the same boat? Do we both want to have this intimacy again? Like, you will see that during these conversations, yes, things will come up, like triggers. So it's important to have the tools to work around what surface to the surface, right? That's the same word, but because we're on this wheel of doing, of tasks, of work, of going with the kids, we haven't been able to check in and come into the present moment and feel each other again. We're just in this loop of doing, 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 doing. So it's very hard to connect when we are just doing stuff. The connection happens when we are being and we are not doing anything and we're just close to each other. So whenever we have that conversation can be an opportunity to not do and connect. And there is when things might come to the surface that we have to work around. But if we are willing to stay together, we're willing to work around the stuff and, clear the things between us, we will definitely go through the challenge. And after the challenge comes the gift, and the gift is connection. And then this is all just the first step. What happens when we have all this honest communication? We have connection. We'll feel the connection again. We've cleared the way. Now that we've cleared the way between us, even though it's mentally, it's also physically, now we work on the polarity that was Tina talking about. Yes, we can have an amazing connection. We can have an amazing friendship, right? We can like the same things, be on the same topic on everything, be buddies and best buddies and roommates and, earning money to keep up the family. But if we don't have attraction, there's nothing that is going to pull us between each other. When we have attraction, which comes from polarity, then it's inevitable that you will end up in bed. It's inevitable. Like when you have attraction to your woman or to your partner, you'll end up doing something with him, right? Whatever that is. Maybe it has to be something nourishing and vibrant and nice and juicy. But that's your personal stuff.
I think it comes to talking about all of these three, like a bit taking a perspective in general. We all never got taught about how to relate to each other. How do we keep passion alive? How do we have the difficult and the vulnerable conversations? What leads to change and connection rather than argues and fights? How do we cultivate polarity? How do we actually experience a nourishing, deep, beautiful, juicy intimacy? Like nobody taught us. That's why one of our products has a subtitle of the relationship school you never had. That's why this is a deep mission from our heart in Bright and Lola is how can we bring education in relationships where the partner love each other, like you love your partner and you want to stay together and the spark has faded away. So yes, this is definitely possible. The thing is, what was missing is the education we all never got. So happily we are in a new uh, timeline and era where new education is existing and we are in an online world. So we are teaching all of what we just shared. Like, how can we actually have conversations what lead to change and connection? How can we cultivate again or even ever so more polarity in us? How can we experience a way different way of intimacy and sex than we ever experienced before and not the default we know? We think we know each other, we know the body, we know the arousal, we know the default. There's a whole new world nobody told us about. So open yourself up to, yes, it is possible. And there are some juicy, nice, beautiful, and some deep and maybe challenging exercises to do. We call it our connection and intimacy code, where you go through these three pillars and we teach you the exercises. And there are several ways how to bring the juice back in your relationship. You can check them out on our website. Welcome to the world of Brad and Lola. We are here. We are not going anywhere. And we know you can't suppress what's burning inside. That's why